So today we're hoping to accomplish some of these agenda items, along with give you an opportunity to try some things in WeVideo. Mostly the setup stuff I want to be ready so that when you're going to go do these things with your class, you know what needs to be prepared. So we're going to talk about the why. You know, why do we want to engage with WeVideo as a collaboration and creation tool? What's the advantage? And I might give you some examples of what teachers have done there. We're going to talk a little bit about digital citizenship and the fact that there's some you know, class culture connections that need to be made before we engage in some of our WeVideo work. Right. So there's some intentionality there. We're going to talk about groups. This is when you're going to go and set up some groups in WeVideo so that your class will be able to see each other and do some interaction. And then we're going to talk about the ways in which you can collaborate in projects or video edits together. And then you're going to be able to look at a little bit about feedback and peeking into student work and what are the strategies you want to use in terms of engagement and feeling safe and you know, optimal risk and all that good stuff. So let's get started. The first thing is the why. So when we were kind of trying to engage with WeVideo beyond just like a tech tool, one of the reasons it came to mind was the opportunity it gave students to start engaging in conversations in a remote setting. So engagement was one of the goals, and I think engagement continues to be one of those things in remote learning, along with you know, re-engagement for students coming back in September that we're going to be continuing to work on through summer school and into next year. So WeVideo is something we thought would be interesting because it allows the sharing of ideas in an asynchronous setting. And you might need it asynchronous for various reasons. You know, it could be because students need to feel safe enough to take a risk, you know, to have that, you know, small steps towards full conversations in their peers digitally and remotely. And at the same time, the students are going to feel connected and heard, even though they're not, you know, in a class. Because they're able to share their ideas and thoughts. So centering asynchronous conversations around WeVideo use as a start was a strategic move, and it's super helpful. So that's one of the reasons why. And the other big reason is the idea that teachers can engage in some really meaningful feedback through some conferencing that can happen through WeVideo asynchronously. And that gives teachers the time to be thoughtful about their feedback and not have to rush through one-on-one meets, but also students the time to be thoughtful as well and not feel on the spot and, you know, all that stuff we have with cameras turning on and all that. So that's one of the reasons why. And here is, I want to show you this really quick video. Is a student responding in a prompt from Ms. Snapper's class, one of the teachers who engaged in this inquiry into WeVideo with her class this year while we were in remote learning. So let's take a look at this together.
I don't like sharing, but that's not true at all. I love sharing. I mean, what's not to love about being able to go up to someone and say, hey, can I have some of your candy? And they actually give it to you. Or can I ride your bike for a while? And they get you to ride their bike. Sharing's awesome. Sometimes you have to be careful though. Like if someone comes to me and says, can I have one of your cookies? Well, if I gave them a cookie, then I might not have any cookies left to share with other people who would like, you know, be the opposite of sharing. So I have to say no, because sharing is really important.
All right, so there's just one student sharing kind of her voice through WeVideo. You can see that she's had some time to prepare. She might be reading something, and that gives that scaffolding of safety for students. So that's one of the whys where we're engaging remotely with students. It's really difficult for them to be live, especially in the adolescent age. So that's really helpful. And here is
I don't like sharing, but that's not true at all.
And here's what it might feel like. So I was in conversation with Ms. Napper, asked for her permission to share this conversation because we were problem solving and how to set this WeVideo up. She was really engaged in the inquiry process. And this is what was happening maybe a month, 2 months ago or so. So students are, she's saying, they're currently recording themselves saying monologues for drama, and I just was able to see one of them. So it works. So, okay. And then this reaction of like, I can see their faces. I haven't had a single camera on week. So there's an element of WeVideo providing that scaffold, maybe in engaging in conversation in remote learning that's going to lead to what's happening live in Google Meet. So that is another why, which I thought would be really crucial to pay attention to. I'm gonna see if I can hear something pop in the chat. Yay, faces, right? That's huge. For us teachers who need that feedback, it's really important. So that's big pictures of why, beyond just a tool for students to create and do things. I think teachers can really leverage WeVideo to scaffold some of those conversations, connections, conferencing, feedback pieces that are really crucial in our learning program in remote. So I'm going to take a little moment here and get some interactivity with you. What awareness do our students need to have before engaging in media creation? So what are some of the things you think students need to be aware of or be made aware of by their teachers and educators before they engage in some digital media creation? I'm going to do a 3-2-1 waterfall. So what that means is whatever your ideas are, full sentences, jot notes, whatever it is, type it into the chat. Do not press enter though. I'm just going to type them all in. And then when I say 3, 2, 1 waterfall, you can press enter. We're going to see everyone's ideas kind of trickle out. And you've probably seen this, I'm pretty sure, at some point in time this year. And this could be something that, these could be strategies you've already addressed in your class. So if you talked about it or intentionally put it in, that might be nice for everyone just to hear. Or things that you would want to address before launching something like WeVideo. So I'm going to give you a moment to type that in, and then we will 3, 2, 1 waterfall. Okay, I think hopefully that was enough time. I know some of the some ideas might take longer, but press enter for now, and then you can keep adding. Okay, 3, 2, 1 waterfall. Nice. I am seeing some things about safety, words of accountability, responsibility, safety, people feeling safe to share, equity, understanding where students are coming from, their privacy, comfort levels. These are all fantastic things to discuss, set up in mini lessons, maybe engage in those pieces. And in that graphic, in that slide, connects with all these things, right? We're dealing with mindsets that students have, belonging in the classroom, the culture and the feeling of that classroom, along with accountability. So all the different pieces. And there is no one tool, one answer to creating that digital space, digital citizenship space. I think it's being responsive to your students and being aware of where they're coming from is pretty awesome. So something to consider for sure. Thank you for participating in that waterfall. So now we're going to do a little bit of interactivity in terms of you jumping into WeVideo and setting up groups. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly, I'm going to drop this homepage into the chat just in case you don't have it. And we are going to jump into WeVideo. You're going to have a WeVideo tab and this Google Meet tab open. And what we're going to do is actually set up groups. So what are groups? Well, the way WeVideo is set up right now, IT by default takes the students. So groups are ways in which if you want to start a project and collaborate. Remember last week we looked at how you can start a project and then we just pick my own or I want to collaborate with someone. When you click collaborate, in order to be able to see people that have WeVideo accounts, a couple of things have to be true. One is they have to be in the same group. Now, IT has preset groups, but they're really big and messy and clunky and hard to find because sometimes they deal with the whole grade in the school. And if you're doing summer school and kids are coming from different schools, it's going to get messy. So the teacher setting up a group is the best way to do it. So I'm going to show you how to set up a group so that students can see each other and add each other to their projects, including be able to see you and add you as a teacher to their project. And we'll talk about the 2 different pathways of sharing projects that you can go to. So I'm going to also open up a WeVideo tab. Okay, so when you go to your WeVideo homepage, this is what it's going to look like. Because you're a teacher, like this join group class is available for all students, but because you're a teacher, there's this little groups button up at the top. So you are going to click on that, all right? And in there are all my groups that I've ever had before, and I can start a new group. So as a teacher, you have access to like anyone in the system. As a student, though, when they go in, they can't really see any groups or have any management to it. All they can see is the groups that they've been added to because either IT added them or you, their teacher, added them. So I'm going to go down here and click create a group. I'm going to call this my MLL summer school group. And then I can start, Google automatically kind of pulls names that have been around me recently. So all of you guys in the meet are in here. So I can start adding people into my group. So I can search for people. And you do this, unfortunately, the easiest way to do this, there's 2 ways. One is you can give a code to your students. Sometimes I don't like doing that, even though you have to enter your 12, 14, 15 students in summer school or 25, 30 students during a normal class. I just like typing their name in because then you can really control that they're in the group instead of waiting for them to click join or maybe them having to go and find this and it can be messy and all that stuff. So I just like doing that. So if I wanted to, I see Ian there, but if I wanted to search for Loretta, she's not a student, but I can search for her. All I have to do is click on it. And you'll notice that the moment I've clicked on it, she goes great. And I can see that there's 1 user, all right, in this group. It says 0 groups, but because I can kind of nest my groups. Let's say you have a group for your art projects or whatever. You can make a bunch of groups, and then you can take those groups and put them into your class group, and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff. Don't worry about that. We're just going to make one for your class, all right? So I'm going to pause, leave my video here, and I'm going to give you a moment to do that. While you're doing that, just unmute or pop something in the chat if you're having trouble or not figuring things out. Now, you don't have to enter. You can edit your group, so you don't feel like you have to do all 12 students right now, but I would like you to try 2 to 3 just to see what it's like.
Hebron, I think I missed at the very beginning what you were saying. So I ended up just in as an educator through Google WRDSB. Is that correct?
Yeah, if it asks you to log in when you went to WeVideo, you click on the Google and it'll take you to this homepage. I'm gonna go cancel here.
So I'm on the page for remote and blended learning with WeVideo, a guide for teachers. No, okay.
This is what your landing page will look like. There'll be a bunch of stuff, and then from there.
I didn't see that. It took me. Oh, yeah, it took me somewhere else. Okay.
Oh, maybe
I'm gonna redo the link again.
Okay, try it. And really, what matters is this groups button at the top. You should be able to see that, even though your landing page might be different.
Okay.
Good questions. Try it and let me know.
Yeah. Actually, the second time I did it, now it's landing on this kind of page. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks.
All good. So I'm going to do it again for reference, create a group, MLL, and then I'm going to search for Loretta again. Put her in there, and then I'm going to search for Minu. Put her in there. I've got 2 users. I'm going to click create. Okay, my MLL group is right there. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, with my groups, I'm just going to show you how you might edit or change things, because you can. So if I click on my group, I can see who's in my group. I can rename my group. I can add members to the group. I can start a group project, but beware, when you click start a group project, it means everyone in this group will have collaboration, viewing, and editing rights to everything in this project. So unless you're making really small groups inside your class, like you're making groups that you've created for a specific art or whatever project, I wouldn't really use that. And I can also add change group. And this is the code that I was telling you about. If you didn't want to enter each student in, you can copy this code, tell students to use that code. And where students would see it is, let's go back to home. They have this join group class in their home, and they could click that and enter the code to join your group. So that's kind of how you set up groups. If you don't set up a group, students won't be able to see you and find you in the next step that we're going to show you together. All right, I'm going to keep going here for the sake of time, but at the end, if you have any questions, we will be able to come back to this. So looking at collaborative projects, there's kind of two ways you can do this. One is essentially just the teacher-student sharing. And this is how I would start it, because in remote learning, there's all apprehension, want kids to feel safe, have practice, all that stuff. So students log into WeVideo, and they're, just like we did last week, they're going to create a project. And it looks very similar, so I'm going to just show you what that looks like. Again, we're going to click on projects here, and they're going to create a new project. And they're going to say, Ms. L's class, whatever it's called, and then they can type my project. It's on frogs. Maybe somebody's, I don't know, just making stuff up. But instead of personal, they're going to click collaborative. When they click this and go next, they don't get these options. It actually jumps, because we're teachers, we have this, I can send an invite link, blah, blah, blah. It jumps to this, and now they can search for your name. So if Loretta is my teacher, I can pick Loretta. Oh, actually, I just click on it right here. I can search for Loretta, and then I can add her. So because she's my teacher, this is like as if I have this conferencing project that Loretta and I have, right? I'm gonna click next, and I don't need to add any media like we did last time. I'm going to finish. So this is a project that if Loretta went into her WeVideo, she would find under shared with me, right? She'd be like, oh, there's Hebron's Miss L's class project. And what that does is gives Loretta the ability to pop into my video edits as a student and take a look at what I've said. And she can also add her own, record her own video edit and respond to what I've said in the video track, so that the student, when they go back in, can see. So you can kind of have a conversation, or whatever project you're doing can go back and forth. And it's really cool. So this is kind of one-on-one safe space to engage in conversation and conferencing between teacher and student. So that's option one. Any questions about that before I go on to option two, which is more of the one that kind of makes sense, is intuitive? Cool. One thing I did want to show is when you go to projects, if I click on shared with me in the project section, this is where all the projects that have shared with me live. So we did this WeVideo inquiry, and teachers were sharing projects with us. They were the students. Lindsay Bueller and myself were the teachers. So you'd have these, projects that are shared with us. Now, I usually just order it by name, so you can find your students. So if I'm looking for Emily Napper's project, I can click on that, and I can jump in there as a teacher, and I can see, what the two pieces of conversations are in the track right here.
All right. Hi. I chose the.
And then another student
responded,
and I jumped in and added some stuff. but if I wanted to, as a teacher, I can jump in here and actually just record a response, right? And that's a piece of feedback. And that piece of feedback can be something that the student takes and then, okay, does, and then kind of deletes, or it could be like this thing that we're building a conversation or building this portfolio on an edit, on a WeVideo edit. Okay, so that's that. And then the other piece here is essentially, oh, these are the kind of the steps. It's in the slide, how students can add their teacher. And the other piece is a student can pop in, start a project, and essentially add any other collaborators. So if you put students into groups of 2, or you tell them you have these choices to get into groups of 2 or 3, they can add those people, and then those 3 people can go in and create edits and either have wider conversations or work on a video together or do all kinds of stuff. And that's kind of the intuitive way of, we would collaborate together. Having students create the project gives them ownership over who they're sharing which project with. The other way, when we said, create a project for the whole group, kind of creates a project by the teacher, a project folder that the students in the whole group have access to edit and do all that stuff. So that's kind of maybe the last step in the process, depending on the sizes of groups that you would be doing. And then you have, just like I showed you, you can jump into the shared with me, peek into student work. You can order things by name to find the students you're looking for. This is something I wish they would have folders or ways to organize things. If you have multiple classes, it can be kind of messy. So that's, and then you can show the edits, which are how many edits students have done in the projects. There's some data that you can pull from the project folder, like, and whether the video edits have been exported, like they've clicked finish. You can see that kind of stuff, so you can quickly check student progress. That's helpful. And then, oh, yeah. So I was just talking about how you can see whether something in a project has been exported or how often and when was the last time it was exported. The big thing that I want to discuss here in the feedback loop, if you're going to use WeVideo as a conferencing tool and use it for some feedback, we noticed some things. So we noticed that this is kind of a high-risk engagement for students. So consider starting with positive feedback only. And I know that's really hard, where you're like, okay, this is not what I expected. How can I engage in this in a positive way for the student, so they come away thinking, oh, that was kind of fun and interesting. So it's very important, because it is kind of, they're putting themselves out there. They're recording themselves, like you saw that students sharing about their drama monologue about sharing, and it's high risk. So because criticism, even when it's gentle, can take away the ownership of that piece of work or that creativity. And then when you're giving feedback, we found that it always helps when you focus on the process, not the final product, right? Instead of saying, hey, you need a checklist of these things, focusing on the process of what the student does helps the student apply that feedback in an iterative way, and it's a little bit more, they can take it and apply it without feeling like, down about the feedback that they've received. So that's like a quick crash half hour into collaborating in WeVideo. I'm going to pause for some questions, because you might have a WeVideo tab open. You might have some questions for me. I don't know. It is 9 o'clock. I'm cognizant of the time. So, but if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to address them now.
I see that Loretta has answered some of the, so it's the Trillium name. So sometimes that might be the issue for searching. So all our students should be in there, Hebron?
Yes, all your students will be in there. One of the things you do want to keep in mind is that if a student or a staff member even has never logged into WeVideo, they won't show up.
Oh,
so
okay.
It won't kick them into the system unless they log in. So what you might want to do with your class is show them how to log in, have them all log in, and have them all log off as an exercise. And then you can start setting up your collaborative groups if that's what you're doing.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah. Good question. And it does pull from Trillium, so all the data is the classes and schools and stuff, and all that comes from Trillium. I don't know how often it pulls, but it does pull from there. Good questions. Okay. I think.
Hi,
Yeah.
Abraham. I'm wondering if you can also share the information about the office hours that you hold so that if people have questions, they can connect with you that way.
Yeah, I've had a few office hours last week and this week. I haven't set up any yet coming up. So maybe what I'll do is I will send, I usually just, I have in the main homepage, there's like a tech help button, and it's people just, you can click that on the main site, and I set something up with people as needed. Because my schedule is pretty flexible, but I can, people prefer office hours, specific office hours, because I can set that up as well. And I'll just maybe send out an email to the summer school group. I can do that. I can do that today.
Because we had a group that was wanting to do videos, and there were some things from the last session that they wanted us to go over. And we did go over some of those things, but I thought if they were to connect with you, that'll be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I've done, and if you need something a bit more one-on-one, I'm more than happy to do that, because I've done that for people as well, because it's just a little bit easier. So you pop me an email, I can set up a one-on-one, and then I'll also I'll pop in some office hours as an event too. Then people can jump into that as well.
Perfect.
And I just want to answer. Oh, sorry. Minu, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just want to answer Haley's question, and I think Flipgrid, you still would need permissions, right? Because it's a third-party app, whereas WeVideo is through the board, so it's safer, correct? And you don't need permissions to use it. Yeah, you don't need third-party permissions because WeVideo, like the board has purchased premium accounts for the system, so we have 10,000 of them, and it's kind of a shame sometimes. I mean, they've had them for a long time. A bunch of them sat dormant, so it's. I think the advantages are obviously that you have much more broader capability in WeVideo, and maybe it's not as simple to start with. The thing is, whenever you have a third-party app, just be aware, if it's free, just take that with a grain of salt. Like, there's a reason why it's free. And if it's free and it's asking your students to log in with their credentials, it's pulling data. That's where they make their money. So that's always like the struggle in the tech world, where you're like, don't want to have to pay for something, but if it's free and you're like asking students to log in, it is pulling data, and sometimes it's hard to know what kind of data it's pulling. So with that in mind, if you can do things anonymously and free, you're good to go, right? Like if you're looking for like broad, like you can do Pear Deck anonymously, and you just kind of get an idea of what students are thinking across your class, or get a response and get a poll, those kinds of things. That's cool if you can engage anonymously. But the moment students have to log in with their Google credentials, you have to get third-party permission, because they're pulling data, and that's how they're making their money essentially. So good questions.